Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where we provide world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. I'm Caroline HEWARD, known as the Harley Street Stress Expert, and I'm your host today for today's show. Our show today is a woman's prerogative, and we are working in partnership with E360 TV. So a warm welcome to all of our viewers on E360 TV who are joining us for the first time, and a warm welcome to our viewers that have come back to visit us and watch us on the replay if they're not watching live. A warm welcome to all our USA Normal subscribers and to all of our viewers that watch us across all the many different social media platforms. Our show today is a woman's prerogative in partnership with E360 TV, and we have an extremely juicy topic. If you tuned in only a couple of hours ago, you will have seen that I did the show solo. Now I have today joining me a wonderful lady who I'm going to introduce to you in a moment. Our topic is the power of mentorship, empowering women through guidance. And it is our part 2 of the show. As I mentioned, part 1 was at 7 p.m. British summertime, which I did solo because the other expert panelists were not available because they were in situ with other clients and weren't able to get away. But now we're going to move over to our wonderful MARISKA, who is coming all the way from New Zealand to share with you some hope, inspiration, education, and entertainment, maybe. MARISKA.
Hello, Caroline, and
Hello.
all our viewers and listeners.
Wonderful to have you here. It's wonderful to be with you so far away. You're on the other side of the world, and literally, I think it's 12 hours between us. So I'm 9 o'clock in the evening, and you are 9 o'clock, is it, or 8 o'clock?
8 o'clock in the morning, and I am on Tuesday, whereas you are in Monday still. Yeah.
So, Mariska, please do introduce yourself with a short introduction about what you do and how you help people for our viewers that are joining us for the very first time.
Thank you, Caroline. So, MARISKA is the name by which I go. And as long as at least I know that you are calling me, I'm okay with whatever pronunciation it is that expresses itself through you. And I am a leadership development partner and coach. So I help people moving from a specialization into their leadership space, or alternatively moving up within your leadership space. So that's the environment in which I typically work. And I'm really, really excited about today's topic because mentorship moves into this partnering space really, really well, and understanding how to do this in a way that generates some prosperity for both partners are really a place where I enjoy exploring. So, Caroline, I cannot wait to jump into this topic with you today.
Oh, fun. Thank you, Mariska. And for myself, I'm known as the Harley Street stress expert, and I help people literally bust their stress. How do I do that? I work with root cause therapy and break through the patterns that create your repeat cycle of how stress manifests with you, either in the body, physically, mentally, like things like depression, anxiety, or behaviorally. So it might affect you in your relationships. What are you complaining about? Some people tell me that they're not stressed, and yet they also tell me that they don't sleep at night, or they're complaining about a relationship they're in, or they're complaining about a work colleague. That's how it's manifesting in your life. And I work with you on your blueprint in a really quick process to identify the root cause of what creates your repeating cycle of experiencing stress the way that you do. So that's me, and I'd like to now really dive into the topic. Mariska, I spent quite a bit of time exploring what mentorship means, and because many people get the term confused. So when you hear the term mentorship, what does it mean to you, and how has it worked for you in terms of your life? So first of all, what does it mean to you when you hear the term mentorship, and how has that applied for you in terms of the way that you've worked?
Thank you for that question, Caroline. The mentorship for me, the way that I think about mentorship, is ensuring that I get somebody that has walked that path before. So when I think about a mentor, I think about somebody that either is showing up the way that I want to show up. So it might be that I'm looking for a mentor in the being that they are exuding, or I might be looking for a mentor in something specific that they know about. So say, for instance, I'm within a work environment and I'm a new leader, and budgeting is the very first time I need to do budgeting, for instance, right? I might have done a little bit of budgeting before, but not to a very big extent, maybe on 1 or 2 projects. And now I actually have a whole department budget that I need to run. Now, a mentor I would look for within that space would be somebody with really good financial background and knowledge. Now, in saying that, everybody with good financial background and knowledge might not be the right person for me. So I'm looking for somebody that can convey the knowledge that I need. So I might even go for 2 possible mentors within that space. And that's very specific, right? So I'm looking specifically for a specific skill, specific knowledge set that I want to work on and improve, increase, refine within that space. So that's where mentoring for me comes in, is being able to have somebody that has walked that path specifically, might be able to help me out with giving me a couple of tips or tricks within that specific space so that I don't fall into well-known pitfalls within that area, and that can help me out. So that's the way that I think about mentoring. And well, where I have used it before, literally, I have used it within the budgeting space for myself, moving into leadership. Initially, I have also used it within my leadership space. So understanding what works well for different leaders within my space. When I moved up within my leadership space, also understanding how to strategize, understanding what is required within that space to lobby with other departments, with other leaders, and actually help my team out in that way, and understanding how to bring all these stakeholders together. So that's things that I found mentorship really worked well for. And Caroline, I know that you explored this quite a bit during your first part of the show, and I would love to know what it is for you.
Oh, Mariska, I'm nodding my head here on very many things that you've mentioned. I'd first like to mention, and I really picked up on the finance side of things. Finance is not my bag at all. It's really not. And I would always leave, and I still do, even after all this time of having my own company. I still leave the financial things, the accounts, because I've run a limited company. They're always left right to the last minute. My accountant is always like sort of laughing and at the same time sending me messages saying, we need it, I need this to work on, got 18 months to do, I need this for a month before the deadline day, and I always leave it really, really late. He knows he has an immaculate set of records. And the reason for that is I've actually tapped into a good bookkeeper. And I pay a bookkeeper and an accountant. And the reason I do that is because the bookkeeper does what I would say the grunge work is. And I've learnt a lot from the bookkeeper. And I still get them to do it, even though I do a lot of it myself now. And I usually say, I do it because I want to know, even though I don't do it until it has to be filed. I do it because I want to know. And it's not because I can't do it. It's because it's not important to me. And at the same time, I like to produce an immaculate set of records. And so from that perspective, using a bookkeeper, things have changed in British legal accounting and law in terms of what you can claim for and what you can't claim for. And I don't know. I don't keep up with all that stuff. And from that perspective, I used to claim for all my networking meals and drinks. And one of my bookkeepers turned around, she says, always, you put it in, I take it out. You put it in, I take it out. And so she makes it right. And essentially, when she told me that, I stopped putting it in. And then she would guide me on, how to best use the spreadsheet. So she actually produced a spreadsheet for me and then put all the formulas in. And I thought, whoa, I would never, ever have been able to do something like that because that side of things is not my forte. So I've paid and I continue to pay, even though I keep being advised by the bookkeeper, I almost do it. And I've said to them, I prefer you to check, to go through everything, because if I've made a mistake, this is a legal thing and I don't want to get it wrong and I'm responsible. And I even check what comes back as well. So I make, because there's another set of eyes on what comes back. And what's really cool is that I'm learning through that process, even though I'm paying probably a reasonable amount of money over the years. But that finance thing, I need the mentoring, and at the same time, I still want to hand it to them. So the finance thing really, really struck a chord for me. And you also mentioned about championing people, getting people on board and working with them in terms of what they know and their skills. And I do that such a lot. I'm always going to other people that have walked the space. And I'm that kind of that learner. I just want to, I'm like a sponge and I soak everything up. And the mentors that I've approached that I didn't really think were mentors at the time, it's because I asked questions and I was interested in what they shared and what they had to say. And because I was interested, they became interesting. And they shared lots of things because people like to help innately. Mm-hmm. People are genuinely wanting to help you, and you ask for their advice. Usually, not all the time, but usually if they have the time, they want to impart advice. What do you reckon to that? What are your thoughts about a mentor actually feeling very comfortable to impart advice, education, and knowledge from their skill and their expertise?
Caroline, I agree. They absolutely, if we ask somebody for their thoughts on something, I have not found anyone that go, no, I'm not going to tell you. I haven't. Most people, when we ask them for advice or guidance, willingly share without any hesitation. And I think for me, the clearer we can be when we present the request, the easier it is for somebody else to help us out. And as I'm saying that, Caroline, I'm wondering, for you, what have you found good ways to sort of approach a person to say, hey, would you help me out with whatever it is that you need help with?
Oh, that's such a fascinating question, Mariska. That's an amazingly fascinating question, because certainly where I come from, our Britishness is that we don't like to ask. So it's a good question because we almost put these experts on pedestals and we feel almost afraid to say, hey, I could really do with some advice, or could you help me? And so we don't. And as a consequence of that, we don't engage and get the best part of what could be on offer. So my invitation and my recommendation for people that are afraid to ask is literally to engage, to connect with people that are skilled in the area that you want to learn, and also to appeal to their humanness, their human nature, and ask them in a way that is respectful, because sometimes they may not have the time at that time that you ask. And if you are respectful about their time and say something about that, and say, you know, I'd be really interested and keen to learn more about how you went about this particular aspect of your business, and you know, if and let me know when a good time is. And it might be that now is a good time, and it might be they have 5 minutes. And the other thing to be respectful of is if they only have 5 minutes and you ascertain that that's all they have, be mindful of that and only fill that 5 minutes, and be respectful about acknowledging that you are now you've now had your 5 minutes, and thank them for that time, because they are much more inclined to help you further if you are respectful of their time and their boundaries. What are your thoughts about timing and boundaries, Mariska?
Caroline, I was vigorously nodding in the back as you were talking, seeing as absolutely being able to acknowledge the time that they're gifting us in order to help us out. And one of the things, as you were talking, that came up for me is when we have 5 minutes and we have something specific that we want to learn from this person, utilizing our elevated listening skills and keeping our own mouth shut, ask the question, and absorb all the knowledge that comes our way. I think there's a lot of times that for some people, they go to a mentor and then they're the ones ending up doing most of the talking, which I don't know. I'm not sure how much of that person's knowledge we are then absorbing and utilizing within that space. So taking that into consideration as well as we ask the question, so that they can fill it with all the gold nuggets that they have gathered over time. And I'm also thinking about it as almost an exploration, a treasure hunt of sorts, because this person has very useful and valuable information that we can use for ourselves. It might not apply 100%. We might not be able to copy and paste it exactly. We will still need to adjust it in some way, shape, or form. And if we don't have it, some ideas, some different viewpoints, we might not be able to then implement it in our own life in the space we want to implement it. So being an elevated listener during those times will definitely be very helpful. Caroline, what I'm also wondering is if you've ever had any experiences where maybe you went to somebody, they gave you a like small little nugget of information, and then for some odd reason came to the conclusion that you are competing within their space, or they shut down for some reason. What did you do, and how did that work out for you?
Oh, that happens so often, doesn't it, Mariska? And it's when somebody feels that they're in competition with you, when they're not feeling confident about the space that they operate in, and they feel that you will encroach on their potential clients. And if that happens, then gracefully make an exit and acknowledge that the person has given you what they have given you as a gift, and acknowledge that they don't feel comfortable to share anymore. There will be others that do, and there will be others that don't. And it's not about that it's anything personal that you did or said or anything that they're uncomfortable about you personally. It is more about them and their feelings of inadequacy and being concerned about you encroaching on what could be their clients potentially. And let me bust that myth for you, because we are all in our own vibrational frequency and space. And the people that come to me because there's a synergy, there is a like and a vibrational frequency of like and synergy. And so I'm going to attract very different clients to Mariska, for instance. And we're operating in very different spaces. And I can be really generous and share because I know there is more than enough to go round for everyone. And perhaps there's not enough people that are doing this kind of work to actually help everyone that needs it, which is one of the reasons why we're on this channel and we're sharing incredible education and inspirational entertainment, for the fact that some people don't know where to begin. And so YouTube and the other social media platforms are ways that they take in information and education. That's certainly the case for a lot of people that I know, that they check out YouTube. But the thing is, it's not about you. If they clam up and stop sharing, it's about their feelings of inadequacy and their feelings that you may encroach on their professional space. Never take that uncomfortably and never take that as a slight against you. Always look at that as there is something there for the person that's sharing to work through, because we're all human and we're all on our own personal journeys. Mariska, when you were sharing the insights that you were, I couldn't kind of contain myself by the fact that you were sharing, the other person's expertise. And if I may, I'd like to share a financial conversation that I had with my incredible whizzy financial guy. And he really is a whizzy financial guy. And he's really taking care of me and my pension and making it work. And I love him to bits. I really do. But he's very straight. And you have to be specific in the questions that you ask him. So the fact that you mentioned about the specificity of what you want to know. And I remember reaching out, and I thought that I knew he was on holiday. I thought he was back. But I wasn't aware that he wasn't back yet. So I had this imminent phone call with my mortgage company, looking to remortgage, looking to come from a tracker. And this is a real situation. And I reached out, and my amazing whizzy financial guy, I said, is it a good time to speak? And he said, well, I'm on holiday. And I said, yes, I'm aware you're on holiday. I thought you were back today. And he says, well, I'm not in the office. And I says, well, I just have a quick question. Would you mind answering it? And he says, yes, of course. What do you want to know? And I said, I'm looking to fix my mortgage at, I think it was 7.5%. And then he immediately burst into, why do you want to do that? You're then betting that the markets are going to do this. And then he went into this tyranny of different information. And my wonderful guy, and I'm going to say his name's Jonathan, he actually spent an entire hour with me. And I didn't know that he was still on holiday and he was sunning himself on a beach. I had no idea. And he gave me so much guidance and information. I just sat there and listened, and he asked me some very specific questions. I had to have the answers. You know, how long was the mortgage? I thought you were going to sell. Some really specific things. And he said, why do you want to fix your mortgage when you're going to sell? And he told me the reasons for it. And, you know, out of that conversation, I didn't go and fix my mortgage. I stayed on the tracker, and I put my property back on the market, and I sold it and became mortgage free very soon afterwards. So what's the moral of that? The moral of that, and it's true, it really is. I became mortgage free, and it was down to my whizzy, amazing financial guy, because I don't know how to do that. I don't have the skills. I employ someone, literally, and he takes a fee from all the different things that we do together. He's doing the magic on making my pension work and constantly keeping in touch. Now, I definitely don't have those skills, but what I've got is a person in my corner that makes that work. And that's mentorship. He spent an hour of his time while he was on holiday because he thought it was urgent and important, and he cared. And that's mentorship. What are your thoughts about that? And the fact that it's down to him, because I keep saying it's down to you. I am mortgage free because I took your advice, even though I was worried about the interest rates going up to such a silly point that I would not be able to contain it. And he told me not to worry. There was no reason. It was going to be okay, and he was absolutely right. What do you think about that, and what's come up for you in terms of me sharing that with you?
Caroline, I love that story. And the fact that you were able to have him in your corner to be sure that you make the right decisions for what you were aiming for. And I think one of the things that came up for me as you were sharing that story is almost having a board of directors, our own personal board, right? So those people that they in our corner, they're rooting for us, they're helping us out, they are asking the difficult questions that sometimes we need, right? They're kicking us at the times when we need that little extra push, or sometimes more than just a push, in order to have our best interest in mind. And we all need those people in our lives. They are mentors, they are those that would be rooting for us, they would be those that would be encouraging us to go for that next thing that we want to go for, or even, as you mentioned in your example, long-term goals, legacy type goals, right? We need those people in our life. And when you have them, it makes such a big difference. So one of the things that I also always keep in mind is I don't necessarily need my board to be people that only agree with me. As a matter of fact, I don't want them to only agree with me. I want them to push me, Because if I have a lot of people that only agree with me, I will not see things differently. I will not be able to push myself into the direction where I want to be going. And I might not get that advice that's really needed in the time when I really need it. So, taking those things into consideration, I feel that it's very important to have people on my board, people in my corner that has my best interest in mind at all times, and because of that will challenge me, will push me, and will tell me if they think I might be going in the wrong direction. And of course, having some logical reasoning behind it and explaining what they're seeing from their point of view, always helpful for me, and understanding what's helpful for you to be able to do those things will also help you then progress and grow within your life and space. Speaking of which, Caroline, I'm sure that your financial advisor is not the only person in your life that has had some wonderful effects on you. How did you comprise, or what sort of people is within that board space that you have that has your back?
Well, Mariska, it's a great question. And I've had, through my many years in corporate, in management, in marketing and PR, as well as in my stress management world, I've had some of the greatest and the best minds that I've worked with. And I feel very privileged to say that. Then I've always sought a higher game. I've always been a bit of an award winner. And I've looked at, if there's a problem, I always have this like sort of strange, quirky lifestyle of saying, well, if you just do this and just do that, you can change that. And it's because I've had those people that have tasked me to question, to look. And I've always been a questioner, and mentors like questioners because it's about the quality of the questions that you ask. And when you ask the right questions, which is what I did with my wonderful financial wizzy guy, he gave me some answers I wasn't expecting. And the other part to that is, apart from the people that I've had around me, is that I've looked for opposites. I've always been fascinated by people that have the skills of tech and people that have very logical minds in terms of the way that they work, because I'm not really like that in the way that they are. And I have to have a certain amount of that, but then I'm all very airy-fairy. And I had a lovely best friend that was extremely technical, very into the CRM side of things when we were in marketing. And I was very much about the blank piece of paper. A client would call in and they'd want a PR campaign. They'd want a promotion organised, and they got nothing to give me at all to work on. And they wanted to get more footfall through their shopping centre, for instance. And I remember working on, it was a new shopping mall, and it was not a place that you could get to easily. And so I invented a promotion to get people to the destination. And it was cracking the safes, cracking the code, and then they would win a jackpot of a car. So we sort of, the team, I was working with a couple of people, and I came up with the idea of the safe cracker exercise. And then there would be 12 people that would get keys, and then one of them would be a winner. That was all coming from nothing. And so I would have a blank piece of paper, and I could just do whatever I wanted to do. And it was fun. And I love that freedom of being able to explore and create and get press articles, where it was very much a media, print media in newspapers at the time, not social media. That's now the world that we're in. And it was wonderful for me because I didn't have restrictions, only budget. and I didn't have restrictions in terms of my imagination. And so that was me, blank piece of paper, and I loved it. My colleague and my lovely friend, she couldn't do that. She said, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you can go into work and then there's nothing, and then you create something. That would be stressful. But we respected each other's skills and differences. And I've shared that with you because it's a huge deal for some people to have nothing and create something. It like gives them a license to print, you know. And then for others, it would be really strangling for them and strange for them and very stressful. And so it's horses for courses. It's actually what works for you. And so I was very good. I flew by the seat of my pants, literally, marketing and PR. You know, I would write some really racy stuff and it got printed. And people loved it because I would always see it in a different way. Then the fact that I'm interested and I attract people of the opposite skill set made me a good mentee. It made me very approachable and very wide in terms of my learning because I was always asking good questions. And that I would say is one of the keys, is to be open to ask, because the other person will be delighted to share. Something that I want to, we're almost towards the end of our show. Can you believe it? I wanted to look at, because I didn't look at in the last show, books. I've got quite a big library, and mentorship can begin with an audio book or a written book or a video, as it is now we're sharing. We're actually mentoring here on this show. And there are many books that I have read, and I got so impatient. I went to audiobooks because I was too impatient and I didn't have the patience to read everything. So I went into audiobooks, which were much more expensive. What are your thoughts, Mariska, on books and taking, you know, educating yourself from the internet in terms of what we're doing now?
Caroline, it is such a good resource. So I am a bit of a bookworm. I love books. I continuously, not necessarily collect, more consume. And yes, I get the whole audiobooks thing. They are a lot faster to go through. And what I found for myself is it's helpful to have the audiobook as well as printed copies. And I'm looking around me. I've got a few different stacks of books around me at the moment with different readings that I'm busy with. And the reason why I really enjoy a printed copy is because with the audiobook, yes, I know we can do those little sound clips, or you can highlight whichever tag the space that you want. And if I want to quickly reference something, it's a lot easier for me personally to grab the book off my shelf. I know which book, more or less, I read it in, go and get the little tag and just read through that short little piece that I highlighted or underlined or whatever the case might have been. So for referencing, it makes it a lot easier for me to have a physical book. And for some odd reason, I also have a tendency to retain it a lot better when I was able to see the writing. Yes, I know. Different people do different retentions. And for me, the visual is very, very helpful. So I do audiobooks. I listen to them quite regularly. And I will also make sure that if I liked the audiobook, I'm going to have a hard copy of it somewhere in my vicinity. And in all likelihood, go through it again so I can highlight, underline, tag,
I'm
and so on.
laughing because I do the same. And also I know a lot of the authors and I get them to sign my copy because it's a bit hard to sign an audio book. So I get them to sign my copy. And sometimes, I buy a series of books from the same author and, take them to them to sign when I'm at conferences. But that's because I'm really in it and I want to learn. I'm like a sponge. And so to conclude, mentorship is very wide, and you would be surprised at how much can be gained from the guidance of mentorship. And as Mariska highlighted, that you don't have to take everything that they've said, but when you do get those few nuggets, it is worth acting on, as I did with my lovely financial guy, because if I hadn't have acted on his advice, and if he hadn't have given me the time, and that morning when he was on holiday sunning himself, I would never have called him if I realized he was still away. So, it's like sort of all these opportunities came up, and he realized I was going to make a big mistake. And so he didn't want that as a mentor. He wanted me to do well. He wanted me to fly. And I believe that most mentors are there because they want to help you succeed. And that's the big thing that I've taken away from my mentors. What about you? What's the last hot thing that you want to share with our viewers tonight or this morning in New Zealand that you feel that somebody looking for a mentor can gain?
Well, as you mentioned, Caroline, I would say do not be afraid to ask. I think that is the very first step that we need to take. And the other thing is that intention. So understand who it is that I'm asking and what they are asked for. And books. I mean, if you are still not in the space where you feel quite comfortable to ask a physical human being, books were written by other human beings with their knowledge and their insights within those spaces. So if you have a space that you would like to grow a little bit more in or understand a little bit more about, always the option of diving into a book first and then speak to your friends, hear who they have in their environment that might be helpful, and ask. The worst that can possibly happen is a no, which I then personally interpret as a not yet, because not yet feels so much better than no. How about you, Caroline?
Not yet. I mean, that's a classic. That's one of the things that I say. This is right for me, but the time is not quite right. So it's not yet. It's not a no, it's not yet. But we are actually out of time. So what I want to do, Mariska, is if you can quickly share with our viewers how they can reach you, and very quickly, in a minute, summarize the type of person that can benefit from your services.
Okay, so let's go with type of person first, then at least you know that I'm talking to you. If you are a specialist moving into a leadership position or a leader moving up within your leadership space, that's the area in which I work and help out. So I help out with leadership development, partnering with you as well as within the coaching space. And you can get hold of me via my email, which is mariska@journey2discover.com, as you will see in the banner below. Or alternatively, you can also get hold of me via LinkedIn. Send me a message and we can start our conversation. And I would love to bring a little bit more humanness into your work environment so that you can also be the best leader that you can be.
Oh, I love it. Thank you, Mariska. And for me, I help you bust your stress. If you are struggling with depression, anxiety, any physical or emotional ache and pain, if you are struggling with bereavement, and also last year I qualified as somebody that can actually help you if you are suffering with suicide or self-harm tendencies or challenges. You can reach me on nomorestress@live.co.uk. You can also reach me by phone, +44 if you're international. If you're local, 07523 120 189. You can follow me on Facebook and on LinkedIn. I leave a wealth of information and education, and I also promote lots of different offers from other people that are experts and that have incredible offers. Some of them are free and some of them are really low price. So please do follow me on social media and reach out so I can help you bust your stress. An absolutely amazing thank you, Mariska Dupree. It's been an incredible show. Always it goes quickly when I'm with you. We're in sync, we are. Mariska, it's been amazing. Our viewers, I'm sure, have been enlightened and educated and inspired about how they can be empowered through mentorship and through the guidance of mentorship. It's been a wonderful show. Thank you very much for joining us. It's an incredible experience to share our skills and our gifts with you. And I look forward to seeing you either on the live or the replay this time next week on Monday, 9 p.m. for A Woman's Prerogative Part 2, British Summertime, and 8 a.m. New Zealand time. And I'm not quite sure what it is in the US time, so please forgive me. And now it's over to our sponsors, and I look forward to seeing you at the same time next week for Part 2, and at the earlier time of 7 p.m. British Summertime for A Woman's Prerogative Part 1. Thank you very much, everyone. And now over to our wonderful sponsors. And a very big thank you to Helen, who is our producer of the show tonight, who's been looking after all the whizzy effects behind the scenes. Thank you very much, Heather. Bye-bye, everyone, and look forward to seeing you next week.